Now that we have covered some various sampling techniques, you should be able to read a scenario and be able to determine what type of sampling technique was used and explain why it was that particular technique, or you should be able to explain why it wasn't a different technique. So for instance, why the scenario doesn't satisfy being a random sample. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. So in this first one, every 20th soup can coming off of an assembly line is checked for defects. So what sampling technique is that? And then we're going to explain why. So this is going to be a systematic sample. Now why is this going to be a systematic sample? Well, in this case, we're only pulling every 20th can. So 20 is going to be basically the size of the leap that in my population I'm going to go between picking one individual to the next individual. So this is what a systematic sample is. There's like this set distance between the individuals that are used to pull this data. And then the randomness is introduced for whatever that first can was that we started pulling. The next example, a $50 gift certificate is given away at the annual bankers convention. Tickets are placed in a bin, and the tickets are mixed up. Then the winning ticket is selected by a blindfolded person. So this is going to be a random sample. So this is your classic names in a hat, but this is actually tickets in a bin. Okay, so each ticket is as equally likely to be picked as any other ticket out of the entire population of all the tickets. Children in a large city are classified based on the neighborhood school they attend. A random sample of 5 schools is selected. All the children from each of the selected schools are included in the sample. This is going to be a cluster sample. The original population is broken up by school. Okay, so they're looking at children in the city. So all the children in the city are broken up first by the school they attend. Once 5 schools were randomly selected, the key thing is all the children from each of those selected schools are included in the sample. Just to contrast this, if this had been a stratified sample, how a stratified sample would look is that the children in the city would be broken apart by the school they attend, and then inside each of the different schools, a random sample of students would have been selected. So in my overall sample then, I would have a couple of students from each school. The way this one is done, once the schools are selected, all of the children from those schools were included in the sample, so that there were some schools that had no children included in the sample. So that's going to be the major difference between cluster and stratified. In the next example, the first 50 people entering a zoo are asked if they support an increase in taxes to support a zoo expansion. Okay, this is going to be a convenience sample. There was no randomness involved in getting these people. It would just happen to be whether or not they happen to walk by the interviewer, and they happen to be one of the first people to walk by. So then people that are later on in the day have absolutely no chance of being included in this survey. In the last example, all registered vehicles in the state of California are classified according to type, whether or not subcompact, compact, mid-size, full-size, SUV, and truck. A random sample of vehicles from each category is selected. This is a stratified sample. The different strata are the type of vehicle. And then inside each strata, a random sample was selected. So then overall in my sample, I'll have a couple subcompacts, a couple compacts, a couple midsize, a couple full-size, a couple SUV, and then a couple trucks.